3 months I was in absolute diabolical agony. To be honest with you, the way I felt, death would have been about.
Ozzy Osbourne might be a rock legend, but behind the fame and wild headlines is a life filled with pain. While he had money, fame, and millions of fans screaming his name, but he also faced things no one should have to. From growing up in a poor, tough neighborhood to battling addiction for most of his adult life, Ozzy's journey has been anything but smooth. He's lost close friends, faced serious health scares, and even scared himself with his behavior. His story isn't just about music. It's about survival and perhaps a darker side, too. Join us as we look inside the sad life and heartbreaking journey of Ozzy Osbourne right from the very beginning. A rough childhood in Birmingham. Ozzy Osbourne was born on December 3, 1948 in Marston Green. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Aston, Birmingham. Life wasn't easy for his family. They lived in a small two-bedroom house at 14 Lodge Road. It was crowded with Ozzy, his 3 older sisters, Jean, Iris, and Gillian, 2 younger brothers, Paul and Tony, and their parents all sharing the same space. There was no inside toilet. There was a bucket to pee in at the end of the bed. His mother, Lillian, worked at a factory. His father, Jack, worked night shifts as a toolmaker. Money was tight, but the family did their best. As a child, Ozzy had learning problems. He struggled with dyslexia, which made school very difficult for him. Other kids often picked on him. He also spoke with a heavy Birmingham accent, something many people noticed and sometimes mocked. Despite the bullying, Ozzy had a creative side. He enjoyed acting in school plays like The Mikado and HMS Pinafore. But outside the stage, life was painful. At just 11 years old, Ozzy faced a trauma that would follow him for the rest of his life. He was physically traumatized by 2 bullies from school. They would wait for him on his way home and attack him. He didn't talk about it in detail, but he called the experience terrible. Even worse, one of the first attacks happened right in front of his sister. He was too scared to tell his parents. He carried that fear and pain inside him. Later in life, he admitted, "It completely effed me up." Because of what he went through, Ozzy always told his children to talk about their problems. He didn't want them to hold things in the way he had to. But the pain didn't stop there. Things only got darker as he grew up, drowning in darkness at a young age. School became unbearable for Ozzy. He was bullied often, and teachers punished him instead of helping him. He said in his book, Ordinary People, Our Story, tired of being called names and getting beat up. I was around 12 when I eventually started to skip school on a regular basis. But skipping school didn't fix anything. Life at home wasn't any better. By the time he was 14, Ozzy started drinking and using drugs. He used anything he could get, alcohol, marijuana, even prescription pills. He was trying to escape from the heavy thoughts in his mind. He later wrote, "My head was filled with these insanely dark, depressing, muddled thoughts I couldn't explain." Those thoughts became too much for him. One night, everything felt like it was falling apart. He felt like he was drowning. He later said he became so despondent, like someone drowning in the ocean. That night, Ozzy tried to take his own life. He was only 14. Luckily, it didn't end there. His father came home just in time and stopped him. That moment could have been his last, but life had something else in store for Ozzy. Still, the pain he carried didn't vanish overnight. The trauma stayed with him. Even after that dark night, he still felt lost. "I wasn't drinking for pleasure. I was self-medicating. Can we call it Dutch couraging?" He didn't go back to school. Instead, he tried to find a way to survive. At 15, Ozzy left school for good. He started working wherever he could. He was a laborer at construction sites, tried plumbing, worked in a car factory tuning horns, and even worked in a slaughterhouse. But none of those jobs gave him peace or direction. Then, at 17, things took another turn. Ozzy tried to rob a clothes shop. He was caught. He had to pay a fine but didn't have the money. His father refused to help, hoping to teach him a lesson. So Ozzy was sent to Winson Green Prison for 6 weeks. That short time behind bars left a big mark on him. The prison was cold, harsh, and nothing like the outside world. Ozzy was still just a teenager, but he was suddenly surrounded by grown men, criminals, and a system that didn't care about his pain. It was a wake-up call. Even though he had made many mistakes by then, being locked up made everything feel real. It was also a lonely time. No music, no dreams, just long, empty days behind bars. Ozzy later said that those 6 weeks were enough to show him what kind of life he didn't want. It was clear he couldn't keep going down the same path. And even in that dark place, he held on to one thing. The dream the Beatles had sparked in him. That dream was still alive, even if everything else around him was falling apart. Fired from his dream job, Ozzy Osbourne became a star in the late 1960s as the lead singer of Black Sabbath. The band was formed in 1968 and quickly became one of the most important groups in heavy metal history. Albums like Paranoid, Master of Reality, and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath changed the music scene. They were loud, dark, and powerful, and fans loved them. But behind the scenes, things weren't going so well. By the late 1970s, the band was falling apart. Their albums Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die didn't get good reviews, and the band started losing confidence. They were also struggling with drugs and alcohol. Every member had their issues, but Ozzy's condition was becoming worse. Van Halen, the opening act during their tour, was getting more attention than Sabbath. This made things even harder. Ozzy began to distance himself. He was using more drugs, drinking heavily, and skipping band duties. The rest of the group tried to help him, but nothing worked. In 1979, they made a difficult decision. They fired Ozzy. It hurt him deeply. He later said he felt betrayed. "I was wasted out of my mind," he admitted. But he also thought it was unfair because the others were using too. Still, the decision was made and Ozzy was out. But this wasn't the end. It was the start of a whole new chapter in his life, filled with both success and heartbreak. A new start and a shocking loss. After being kicked out of Black Sabbath, many people thought Ozzy's career was over, but he surprised everyone. In 1980, he released Blizzard of Oz, his first solo album. It was a huge success. He followed it up with another hit album, and by 1982, Ozzy had rebuilt his name. A big part of his success came from his new guitarist, Randy Rhoads. Randy was young, talented, and full of energy. His guitar style was different and exciting. Ozzy and Randy became close friends, and together they created a new sound. Ozzy felt inspired again, but tragedy struck in 1982. The guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne's group was killed in a plane crash this morning, along with 2 other people. While on tour in Florida, the band stopped for a break. Randy, who was scared of flying, agreed to go on a short plane ride. The plane was flown by their bus driver, Andrew Aycock, who had an expired license and no permission to use the plane. He started flying low over the band's tour bus, where the others were sleeping. On the 3rd pass, the plane clipped the bus and crashed. It exploded. Randy Rhoads was just 25 years old. Ozzy woke up to the sound of the crash. He ran outside and saw the wreckage burning. That moment stayed with him forever. He later said, in a way, I'm still standing on that field, staring at the burning crash site. Randy's death broke him. Ozzy had found hope again through music and friendship, and it was gone in seconds, struggles that never left. Losing Randy Rhoads was a deep wound for Ozzy. In later interviews, he opened up about how much it affected him. In 2011, he told The Guardian, "It took me a very long time to get over his death. I'm on a low dose of antidepressants even now." He said Randy gave him purpose. He gave him hope. But after the crash, that spark was dimmed. Ozzy struggled to record music. He admitted to Rolling Stone, "I was kind of emotionally wounded after Randy died. It took me until No More Tears to get back on the right path with recording. The sadness didn't go away, and it wasn't the only thing weighing him down." For years, Ozzy had been battling serious addiction. His drug use is well known, and he hasn't hidden it. In his book, I Am Ozzy, and in interviews, he listed everything he had taken: cocaine, heroin, marijuana, sleeping pills, glue, cough syrup, and more. Often, he mixed them together with alcohol. The list seemed endless. He later found out that he had some rare genes that affected how his body handled drugs. That might explain how he survived years of heavy use. Strangely, one of the strongest effects came from caffeine, not the harder stuff. Still, even Ozzy couldn't keep it up forever. He's been in recovery since 2006 and has talked about regretting those lost years. They were full of blackouts and mistakes. He admits the damage can't be undone, but he's tried to move forward. When the stage turned dark, Ozzy's shows were famous for their wild energy. Fans loved the chaos and the volume, but sometimes things went too far. In 1986, something awful happened during a concert in Long Beach, California. A fan named John Loftus was in the crowd. At some point during the show, he collapsed. Witnesses say he fell backward, likely due to an overdose. He hit his head, broke his neck, and died. The Long Beach police later confirmed the death was accidental. It shook the concert scene. It wasn't just a fun night anymore, it became a tragedy. There were also more injuries that night. At least 3 people were seriously hurt. Several others were arrested. Police said it wasn't unusual for a heavy metal show to get out of control, especially one led by Ozzy Osbourne, often called the Prince of Darkness. But for Ozzy, it was yet another reminder that his world wasn't just about music. It was also about risk, pain, and loss, both personal and public. Even with fame, awards, and millions of records sold, the dark parts of his life have always followed him. But the struggles didn't stop on stage or in the spotlight. Behind closed doors, Ozzy's personal life was falling apart in ways just as tragic as his past. The pain behind his marriages. Ozzy Osbourne has openly admitted that he was a terrible husband to his first wife, Thelma Riley. He married her in 1971, but their relationship was full of problems. In his book, I Am Ozzy, he said, "I put that woman through hell. I should have never married her. She didn't deserve it." Ozzy wasn't just being dramatic. He truly lived like he wasn't married at all. He often acted like a married bachelor. He was rarely home, drank too much, used drugs, and cheated on her often. He remembered one night in California when, right after speaking to Thelma on the phone, he went on to sleep with 3 different women. He also said that finding cocaine during this time only made things worse. Ozzy regrets the way he treated her. He said it's one of his biggest regrets, and he doesn't hide the shame he feels about it. But sadly, his marriage troubles didn't stop there. Years later, while married to Sharon Osbourne, things took a dangerous turn. In 1989, Ozzy tried to kill Sharon while under the influence of drugs and alcohol. In the A&E documentary, biography, The 9 Lives of Ozzy Osbourne, the story is told in painful detail. Ozzy walked up to Sharon and told her she had to die. Then he tried to strangle her. Thankfully, they weren't alone. Someone was there to stop him, and the police were called. Ozzy was arrested. He later woke up in a cell, confused and shocked. He said the walls were smeared with dirt and waste, and he had no memory of what he had done. An officer told him, "You tried to murder your wife." That moment was his worst nightmare come true. Sharon didn't hold back when talking about that night. In a 2004 interview with Reuters, she said, "If I'd had a gun, I would have used it. I would have shot him." After that, they separated for a while and Ozzy went to rehab. Even though they stayed together, neither of them forgot how close they came to tragedy. Cheating, shame, and regret. Ozzy's problems with cheating didn't end with his first marriage. Even during his long marriage to Sharon, he had several affairs. Sharon once said she knew of at least 6 women he had cheated with. These included fans, massage workers, and even women who worked in their home. In a 2022 interview on The Big Interview with Dan Rather, Sharon shared a shocking story. Ozzy once accidentally sent her an email that was meant for another woman. That's how she found out about one of his affairs. She was heartbroken and furious. Sharon even gave Ozzy sleeping pills one night to get the truth out of him. She said she knew he wouldn't admit to cheating unless he was in a vulnerable state. She wanted answers, and she got them. 6 months after Ozzy promised that the affair was over, Sharon found out he was still lying. There were more women. This forced Ozzy to face the truth and finally admit he had a serious problem. He later sought treatment. Even after all the drama, they chose to stay together. But things didn't return to normal easily. In a 2018 episode of The Talk, Sharon said that intimacy had become a bone of contention between them. Ozzy, who was 69 at the time, still had a strong desire for closeness. But Sharon, then 65, said she preferred a more peaceful life. Still, they kept going through the pain, the arguments, and the broken trust. Accidents and family fears. In 2003, Ozzy Osbourne nearly died in a quad bike accident. It happened on December 8th while he was riding on his estate. He lost control, flipped the bike, and it landed on him. Ozzy was on prescription drugs at the time, which made things worse. He broke his collarbone, cracked a vertebra in his neck, and fractured 8 ribs. Some of the broken bones were even pressing on blood vessels, which made the situation life-threatening. He later said, "I died twice." His bodyguard, Sam Rustin, was nearby and rushed to save him. Sam managed to bring him back more than once before emergency help arrived. Ozzy had to undergo surgery right away. He spent 8 days in a coma and needed metal rods to hold his body together. He said he was lucky not to be paralyzed, and even luckier to be alive. But while Ozzy battled injuries, his family had troubles of their own. For doctors to go, "This is your injury from your fall, and this is what comes with parking too." Sharon, his wife, was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2002. It was a long and public fight. Ozzy later told Classic Rock magazine that he was sure she would die. He said the experience was terrifying. Sharon also struggled with body image issues and battled bulimia. It wasn't easy for her, and it wasn't easy for Ozzy to watch. Their kids were also struggling. Kelly Osbourne started using drugs at just 13. Her drug use got so out of hand that Sharon had her committed to a mental hospital for 3 days to try to scare her sober. Jack Osbourne had his own battle with addiction. He became hooked on painkillers at 17 and had to get treatment. Luckily, both Kelly and Jack later got clean. But it took a toll on the entire family. The children who stayed away. Ozzy and Sharon's reality show, The Osbournes, made their family famous. But not everyone in the family wanted the spotlight. Ozzy has children from his first marriage, including a son named Louis and a daughter named Jessica. They were not part of the show. Louis did appear briefly, but stayed mostly out of the public eye. He tried working in music, but didn't find the same success as his father. In 2013, Louis and his wife faced financial troubles and were forced to declare bankruptcy after a property crash. Amy Osbourne, Ozzy and Sharon's oldest daughter, chose a different path. She refused to be part of the show and moved out of the house to avoid the cameras. She was 19 when the show began and didn't want her private life on TV. This decision hurt Sharon deeply, but Amy stood by it. She later spoke to The Independent and said the family had many arguments over it. She also struggled with depression and spent many years out of the spotlight. Amy eventually returned to music and acting, but she stayed away from the family fame. These days, Amy is on good terms with her parents. But reports say she's still distant from her siblings, Kelly and Jack. The Osbourne family might look strong from the outside, but there are deep cracks under the surface. Speaking of which, for years people saw Ozzy Osbourne as nearly untouchable. A rock legend who somehow survived it all. But in January 2020, the world learned that even the Prince of Darkness wasn't invincible. The illness that shook his world. During an appearance on Good Morning America, Ozzy revealed that he had been diagnosed with a form of Parkinson's disease called PRKN2. The announcement came after months of canceled tour dates and rumors about his health. Many fans feared he was close to death. Ozzy finally cleared the air and described sharing the news as a weight being lifted. He admitted that 2019 had been one of the worst years of his life. He had suffered a serious fall and battled other health issues, including a painful infection. But even after the diagnosis, Ozzy refused to give up. His wife Sharon made it clear, it's not a death sentence. It just affects certain nerves in your body. Some days are good and some days are bad. And it's like you have a good day, and then a really bad day. Ozzy's message was simple. He was still fighting, but his health troubles didn't end there. Ozzy's fall in 2019 was much more serious than fans first believed. While walking to the bathroom, he lost his balance and hit the ground face first. The impact knocked loose the metal pins in his neck from his old quad bike accident in 2003. Ozzy later told the Daily Mail, "I saw this big white flash when I hit the floor and I thought, you've finally done it now." He believed he was paralyzed. The pain after the fall was unbearable. "The pain is constant. The first 6 months I was in agony," he said. When asked to rate his pain from 1 to 10, Ozzy didn't say 10. He said 55. He had to go through several spine surgeries. The recovery process was slow and miserable. 6 months of waking up in the morning and being unable to move is a miserable existence, he explained. These health problems added to the ones he was already dealing with, and they completely changed his life. Because of this injury and the lasting effects of his illness, he had to make one of the hardest decisions of his life, forced to leave the stage behind. On February 1, 2023, Ozzy Osbourne made an emotional announcement. He officially retired from touring. The decision came after years of fighting through pain and illness. In a message to fans, Ozzy said, "This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to share with my loyal fans. His retirement followed a long list of medical treatments to repair his spine, but it wasn't enough. He simply couldn't handle the physical stress of traveling and performing night after night. The fall in 2019 had brought back old injuries from his 2003 accident, making things worse. Still, Ozzy wasn't ready to stop performing entirely. He added, "My team is currently coming up with ideas for where I will be able to perform without having to travel from city to city and country to country." It was a small ray of hope for fans who still wanted to see him live, even if it was only in one place. Despite this news, more struggles followed, including a show he hoped would be his big comeback, missed comeback and rumors of death. In 2023, plans were in place for Ozzy Osbourne to make a huge return to the stage. He was scheduled to headline the Power Trip Music Festival in California, performing alongside big names like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Iron Maiden. It would have been his first live show in 5 years, but it didn't happen. A few months before the event, Ozzy had to cancel. He said, "My body is telling me that I'm just not ready yet, and I'm much too proud to have the first show I do in nearly 5 years be half-assed." Fans were disappointed, but many understood. Judas Priest stepped in as his replacement. Meanwhile, as Ozzy tried to rest and recover, the internet had other plans. A YouTube video falsely claimed that he had died. Ozzy found it himself and shared the story on the Osbournes' podcast. "I put it on and I died," he joked. The video even listed a fake death date, November 18, 2024. Ozzy laughed about it and quoted Monty Python, saying, "I'm not really dead, just a little flesh wound." But it wasn't the only false rumor. Photos of a frail-looking Ozzy had sparked gossip for months. His son Jack had had enough. "He's fing fine," Jack said. "These people are fing liars." Stop writing fake news. Ozzy ended that podcast episode with a strong message. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to do more gigs before I'm finished anyway." But while Ozzy continued to fight, even his family wasn't spared from danger. A close call for his daughter and delayed dreams. Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne had long planned to return to their native England. After years of living in Los Angeles, they were ready to go home. Ozzy said, "I don't want to die in America. I'm English, I want to be back," but those plans kept getting pushed back. Sharon explained the problem on the Osbournes' podcast in July 2024. "Every time we're set to go, something happens with Ozzy's health. Despite the delays," she added with hope, "we want to go back so bad, but we'll get there, won't we, Ozzy?" Meanwhile, their oldest daughter, Amy, faced a terrifying moment of her own. In 2022, she was working in a recording studio when a fire broke out. The building quickly filled with smoke and flames. Amy and her producer managed to escape, but not everyone did. One person died in the fire. Sharon posted on Instagram afterward, "They are the lucky two that made it out alive." It is utterly heartbreaking that someone lost their life today. The moment was a sharp reminder of how quickly life can change. Even as Ozzy fought his own health battles, the risks around him didn't stop. Each new day brought another challenge, but somehow he kept pushing forward. A body in pain, a heart still broken. Ozzy Osbourne has battled health problems for years, but in 2024, things took another difficult turn. In a podcast interview, he admitted that his doctor treated him with ketamine, a drug that reminded him of his past addiction. Ozzy said, "He put a tiny bit in me, but that was enough to spark me. That feeling, it waited in my brain." Fans became worried that this could lead to a relapse, especially after everything he had gone through to stay sober. Doctors warned that using ketamine, even for pain, was dangerous for someone like Ozzy. After all, his pain was real. Neck and back surgeries left him in discomfort every day, but even small risks could bring serious problems. Then came another emotional loss. In 2022, Ozzy lost someone he had just started to admire, Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of Foo Fighters. Taylor had played on Ozzy's 2022 album, Patient Number 9. Ozzy said he was a great effing drummer, a phenomenal drummer. He admitted he hadn't known much about Taylor before, but quickly became a fan. The news of Taylor's death shocked him and left him deeply sad. And if that wasn't enough, in August 2024, Ozzy's heart broke again, this time over the death of his dog, Rocky. Ozzy had been close to his Pomeranian for 15 years. He posted a tribute on Instagram saying, "I'll see you on the other side, my friend." Sharon added, "We lost an OG and Ozzy's partner in crime. That little dog had been by his side through so many ups and downs, more surgeries, more setbacks." Ozzy's 2019 fall didn't just cause pain, it changed his life completely. He needed more surgery on his spine, but the second one didn't go as planned. He told Rolling Stone, "The second surgery went drastically wrong and virtually left me crippled." A rod was placed in his spine, and doctors even found a tumor in one of his bones. They removed it, but Ozzy's balance has never been the same. What hurt him the most was that all these issues kept him from doing what he loved most, performing. "It's been like saying farewell to the best relationship of my life," he said. At first, he was angry at his body, at the doctors, and even at the world. But over time, he came to accept that he may never perform the same way again. Then in early 2025, Sharon Osbourne shared even more difficult news. Ozzy could no longer walk. His Parkinson's disease had gotten worse and had affected his legs. She said, "It's not something you can stabilize." Ozzy confirmed it himself on his Sirius XM show. But even in this painful moment, he stayed thankful. "For all of my complaining," he said, "I'm still alive." As of now, Ozzy Osbourne is preparing for his final live performance with Black Sabbath, scheduled for July 5th at Villa Park in Birmingham, England. This concert, titled Back to the Beginning, marks the first reunion of the original Black Sabbath lineup in 20 years and is intended to be Ozzy's last show. What's the one thing you'll always remember about Ozzy Osbourne's journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time. Transcribed by Turbo Scribe. AI. Go unlimited to remove this message.